Okay, folks, need to get some stuff off my chest, and let me warn you in advance, there might be some not safe for work language in this video, so in case you're watching this at the office and you don't have headphones or earbuds or what have you, just go ahead and save this for a later time. Want to talk about our very first Juneteenth. So we had Juneteenth this weekend, and I'd love to say it went better than it did, but it did not, and largely because I saw people on social media engaging in three types of behavior, and also somewhat in the news, engaging in three types of behavior that I thought were just absolutely inappropriate for the day and should not be repeated on future Juneteenths. So number one, bringing up the horrors of slavery or any of the atrocities that happened after Juneteenth. You see, Juneteenth is a day of celebration. Juneteenth is a day recognizing when the words of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed the slaves in the South, made it all the way to Texas, where the slaves had yet to hear for 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation's passage that they were free. So in Texas, it took 3 years for word of their freedom to get to them, and when it finally did, that meant that the whole South had finally, all of the slaves had been freed. And, you know, I liken it to this. I mean, imagine you were talking to a cancer patient on the day that he is ringing the bell signifying that he's just had his last chemo treatment. Now, do you go up to him and say, wow, you know, remember all those times that you were puking on the floor from the chemo? I mean, do you remember all of those just awful cramps and the times that you thought you were going to sweat yourself through? I mean, do you go down a litany of all of the terrible things a person suffered now that that person is finally free of having to go through all that? Or do you just rejoice with that person that that person now has so much to look forward to? Because that's what Juneteenth really is about. It's about looking forward into a bright future with so much more freedom than one previously had. And so to kind of crap all over the day with reminders of here's how bad things were before Juneteenth, and here's how bad things still were at times after Juneteenth, like bringing back memories of the Tulsa race massacre on that day. It's like, for God's sakes, we had just had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you know, get up and give talks on that earlier in the month, because that happened around May 31st, June 1st. That doesn't need to be brought up on Juneteenth. That's kind of ridiculous. That's kind of like, oh yeah, remember remember your worst surgery, you know, or just remember the fact that you still got to lose about 100 pounds and try and strengthen yourself because you lost a lot of muscle mass, and you know, it's just it's a positive day. Keep it a positive day. Number two, saying it's only for black people. Okay, Juneteenth, for one thing, is a federal holiday. That means it's a holiday for all Americans. All Americans get to celebrate Juneteenth. To say that it's only for black people, you're kind of leaving out one very important piece of history, and that's that the slaves did not just free themselves. Okay, there were other people involved in that too. And a lot of them were white. I mean, yes, you did have escaped slaves who made it up north and got into the Union Army, and you did have free blacks who joined the Union Army, but you also had a lot of white people in there who fought and bled and died so that black people could be free. Now, I think that we ought to be able to acknowledge that and say, you know, hey, we're all in this together, okay? Both the freers and the freed, black and white together, we're all on the same team and we can all celebrate this day. But if you're going to try and carve people out and say, no, this is just for us, sorry, you're excluded, you are totally fucking up the meaning of the day, because the whole idea is, come aboard, you're with us now. And for you to turn around and say, not you, well, you're just shooting middle fingers right into the fucking faces of people, and that's not That's not cool. That's not cool at all. So don't do that. Number 3, don't ask for money. I mean, I understand that there are people who are creators, who are producers. They're making art. They've got a business. Maybe they're trying to get funding for a restaurant, and they want to try and bring in some extra money by asking for money on Juneteenth. Okay, yeah, I can kind of see that. At least you're kind of being productive. But to all the people out there who are just asking for money because they're black, fuck you. Fuck you right up and down. The slaves were not freed so that you could loaf, so that you could get a handout. The slaves were freed so that they could work for themselves, that they could provide for themselves, so that they could have the same opportunities to make their way in the world as white people had. And that is not by just getting handouts, all right? And another thing, if you think you are owed something, please understand it is a finite amount that you are owed. It is not infinite. And I know you are not keeping any kind of accounting ledger that says, all right, I'm owed this much, and if you PayPal me or Venmo me or Cash App me, I will deduct that off of this finite amount I owe. Don't even try to fucking fool me on that, because you're not doing it, all right? And what's more, you remember how I mentioned that Juneteenth is not just about black people, but how it's also about the white people who fought and died for the freedom of black people? Well, how would you like it if the white people who are descended from Union soldiers or something said, here's my Cash App, here's my Venmo, send me a fucking tip? Oh, God. This kind of divisive, race-baiting bullshit does not need to be blended into Juneteenth. Juneteenth needs to be a happy, inclusive holiday for everyone that is free of all this, materialistic crap and send me money and, oh God, I'm so owed. So that is my post-Juneteenth rant. I hope it goes better next year. I actually hope to, maybe they'll have some more merchandise or something. I don't know. In Texas, they probably do have merchandise, and I just didn't get to a mall in time. But, who knew? I mean, when did we get the notice that this was actually going to happen? Just a few days ago? And I don't shop much. So, maybe next time we'll have a more jubilant celebration, and we'll have a little less of this cynicism and feelings of deservedness sunk in. But I hope not, because otherwise, the big fear on the conservative side is that people are going to start divvying up between celebrating July 4th and celebrating Juneteenth. God, I hope that doesn't happen, but, the behavior I've seen this go-round doesn't give me a hell of a lot of hope. Now, we can do better than this. We can absolutely do better than this. I want to say I have faith, but, I'm just going to say that the possibility is out there. So, I'm Mike Partika. Thanks for listening, and I hope that wasn't too much blue language for you. Do check out my books on Amazon. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you later.